What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at Data Dash, and today is November 8th of 2017. Well, folks, today was a pretty historic day. And whereas I usually start off with my enthusiastic snap, I want to talk on a more serious note. Just in the past few hours, it's been announced that SEGWIT 2X, the supposed upcoming fork in Bitcoin, the third of 2017, has now been announced to be canceled by the team themselves, from Mike, from Jeff, all the creators and founders of SEGWIT 2X have finally come out today and stating that they will not move forward with forking Bitcoin for the third time this year. I know a lot of people would jump towards instantly what way we should trade this. Should we get into altcoins? Should we get into Bitcoin? All these other questions of how to take this opportunity and benefit from it. That's not the first thing I want to talk about here. What I want to talk about is how proud I am not only of the people behind the SEGWIT 2X team to come out and make this decision, but really why they had to make this decision, which was because of you, the viewer, the community. When there's corruption or decisions being made by a very select few, a very centralized decision-making process such as the New York Agreement, and most monetary systems, it usually goes through without question. Usually we don't get to know what happens behind closed doors, or the decisions that are made again about how money is going to work, or how, in this case, cryptocurrency is going to work, and how the future of Bitcoin would evolve. And whereas a very few select people met at an agreement and tried to set and establish what Bitcoin was going to be without truly consulting the community, whereas other systems would usually allow that to happen, we didn't. It was overwhelmingly clear that the community had a consensus against SEGWIT 2X. You could check any poll, any group in the crypto community, and you would generally get the idea that no one really was behind this, because increasing the block size a simple megabyte seemed like a band-aid. It seemed like a temporary fix. It didn't address the real issue. And because of that, not because the miners just decided they didn't want to, not because the team just decided they wanted to cancel it, but because of you, the community. You, the community, decided that this would be too bad for Bitcoin. This was not the right direction for us as a community to go. And because of that, they had to listen. This is what happens when we speak up, folks. We have the power here. With a decentralized currency, things like this, where centralization starts to form, cannot happen so long as we speak up. And I'm so happy to know that this is not going through, and that we are going to come back to the drawing board and address the issue of scalability head on and come to a consensus as a community and stop the continued forks. This would have been the third one of 2017, folks. We really have to think about that in a logistical sense. We've already had Bitcoin Cash not really live up to the hype that was proposed during the fork. We had Bitcoin Gold, which was an absolute failure. I don't even know what SEGWIT 2X would have done to Bitcoin. This would have literally left a pretty big toss-up in the community, in my opinion. And we came together and we said that's not how we want to approach it. We don't want to split up the Bitcoin brand. We want to find a consensus, even if it takes another year or two. Even if it means that we have to pay slightly higher transaction fees, we're going to do it right. So, on a moral sense, bravo, everyone. You did a great job. So, next up, let's take a look at Bitcoin, because a lot of you are curious about what's going on in the price action here. Well, we had a huge instant run-up here in the price action after the announcement. And I think it was seen as almost kind of euphoric to finally see an actual kind of message sent to the community that we're listening, And I think that it was a very good moment for Bitcoin, and not to mention you realize, well, okay, not all the derived value that was going to be split off into SEGWIT 2x is now going to go into Bitcoin, right? Well, I don't really think so. I think that what you're seeing right now, as we see, there's obviously been a pullback now, and we've actually lost a lot of the general gains for the day. Now we're down comparative to when the news was released. A lot of people are wondering what this means for Bitcoin. In the short term, for short-term traders, for people who are looking to benefit from the fork, which there were a lot of, you have to keep in mind, as we go back over the past few weeks here, a lot of this buying was because of anticipation for the fork. It was knowing that you're going to get another Bitcoin. You're going to get another forked currency. And because of that, a lot of this is on thin air right now. So to a short-term trader, this isn't good news. To a long-term investor, keep in mind, as much as Bitcoin has descended from its highs of the day, really at the end of the day, you're doing fine. And to be honest, this is so healthy for Bitcoin in the long term. As someone who's been calling for Bitcoin to pull back, as much as it might be still going through a pullback, as much as we might even get a huge correction after this, depending on how fast if this sell-off continues, if the volume keeps up, I don't know. At the end of the day, this is good for long-term investors of Bitcoin, and I think that it is going to prove, again, that the community dominates decision making. We get to decide where cryptocurrency goes. They can fork the currency. We determine the value. We determine it through transactions, through mining. I mean, it's us as a community who will decide whether or not a currency takes off or not. And I think they realize it's just worthless at that point. And not to mention, they're damaging their own reputation and the valuation of their own Bitcoin through doing it. So, again, we spoke up here. And I think it shows just how, fragile markets were with all these forks, with how much hype was going into it. And I think, of course, in the short term, we're feeling a little bit of pain. But to long-term investors, no matter if we do end up getting a correction around now or in the next month or so, I gotta say, I think you all should sleep a little bit better at night, because as much like myself, who holds a decent amount of Bitcoin, I feel much better now. I don't care too much about what happens here over the next few hours. I care more about the longevity of Bitcoin, and I feel so much better in a moral sense. And I think, seeing as I feel better in a moral sense, I think markets will do better, much better in the long term. Even if we get a correction, I don't care. We'll have more time to talk about that. What I do want to talk about, though, as many of you know, I've been talking about how we might get a correction in Bitcoin and how altcoins, after the fork, we were predicting the fork would actually happen, but in this case, the fork was canceled, surprisingly. There's always new surprises in the crypto community. However, in this Bitcoin pullback of the day, after the announcement that SEGWIT 2x was going to be canceled, altcoins have been feeling the love. They've been doing fantastic over the past few hours. And a lot of candidates that we've been talking about, Nebuleo, Averix, Substratum, a lot of the kind of players that we've been looking at in this market, Neo, actually the biggest one, I almost forgot to mention Neo, have been killing it. They had an instant moon after the announcement in the sense of their price action. So again, we've got to consider here, this might be the catalyst, as we've generally been talking about, for altcoins to get some definitely some positive price action. As we can see, overall crypto markets are holding above $200 billion. We might not get the full-scale correction, but we might see some of that volume float over to altcoins rather than come back into Bitcoin. I just don't know yet. We can't get a general consensus, because right now things are looking more towards like they're ready to go to the downside, but it's not a flash crash sale yet, as much as we did have a pretty decent sell-off there. Right now, there's no real consensus on Bitcoin. We're going to have to see how it holds. The volume is very high right now. But again, I'm not going to rush to the plate of saying, is Bitcoin selling off? But, this pullback here probably gave altcoins, much like Neo, a decent amount of room to finally get some upside. And we can clearly see that. Walton up 41%, Chainlink 39%, Gas up 28%, Vertcoin 26%, IOTA, Waves, Lisk, ARC, Veritasium, Neo, ADX. I mean, just down the list, almost 20+% on these leaders. You go down to the small caps that are under the top 100. You've got a lot of run up. The Ken ICO going up, District OX 15%, Substratum 12%. You know, just an absolute run up. And I think this is good. I think this is really good, folks. Sorry, my the data's not loading too well. My internet's not the best, but I guess we should just keep it off the charts for now. Or keep it on the one that matters most here. But again, maybe I'll talk a little bit more about this as it develops over the next few hours and the next few days. But folks, I think we really won. We really did. And I'm proud of every single one of you who spoke out against this fork, who stood up and said, look, we're done with this. We're done with seeing failed forks. We don't want another Bitcoin Gold. We don't want another kind of, another Bitcoin Cash or another forked currency that isn't a stable replacement for Bitcoin and only serves as a temporary patch. There was a lot of decent criticism against, SEGWIT 2x and the supposed increase of a 2 megabyte increase in block size. Would that really fix the issues at the end of the day? There's still a lot of issues with the approach of just increasing the block size. And because of that, this was not a community consensus to move Bitcoin forward. And because of that, it wasn't going to be adopted. And it's so healthy. Even though it might not show it in the price action, it is very, very healthy to avoid implementing these forks. And to see that not just with the community not adopting the currency, but from the team coming out and saying, our interest is keeping the community together. This is probably the most important part right here. They're starting to realize that forks are not a method, or at least a hard fork where we're creating another currency is not a way to move the Bitcoin brand forward. We have to think different. We have to get more people involved, and we have to continue to speak out and discuss as a community solutions that we can implement to scale Bitcoin long term. Anyways, everyone, that's it for the video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you all have anything you want me to cover in regards to SEGWIT 2x, I know we can't do a video on the trading strategy. I had a decent amount planned on it, but anyways, I'd love to hear what you all think about this whole event in the comments down below. Let's get a discussion going, as I stated, and I want to hear what you all think about this. Do you all have any plans? Are you in the altcoins now? Are you still holding your Bitcoin long term? Are you hodling? Do you think we're going to 10K? I'd love to hear what you all think. But again, I think this is a good day for cryptocurrencies, and especially our Lord and Savior, based Bitcoin. Anyways, everyone, that's it for the video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Well, that was a weak snap. Talk to y'all later.